stop for a moment. Do not scroll past these words as if they are ordinary. There are moments when a warning is not meant to frighten you, but to wake you. There are moments when God allows a message to reach you because something in your life has reached a point where you can no longer keep pretending that everything is fine. You have felt it. You have sensed it in the silence of your nights. You have known that something has to change, but you kept postponing the decision. You kept telling yourself, tomorrow I will deal with it. Tomorrow I will let it go. Tomorrow I will obey. Tomorrow I will finally walk away. But what if tomorrow is the very thing you have been assuming you will always have? Listen carefully. God is warning you because He does not want you to learn through distraction what you could have learned through obedience. This is not a message designed to make you panic. It is a call to wake up before the consequences become heavier than the correction. You have already survived things that should have broken you. You have already walked through betrayal, rejection, false accusations, loneliness, and seasons where people who promised to stand beside you suddenly disappeared. You wondered why God allowed it. You wondered why people could hurt you and seemingly continue living as though nothing happened. You cried when nobody knew you were crying. You smiled around people while carrying questions that were tearing you apart inside. But there is something you need to understand now. Surviving the past does not mean you are permitted to remain attached to everything that survived with you. Some things were only supposed to accompany you through one season. Some relationships were lessons, not lifelong assignments. Some doors closed because God was protecting you from entering a future that would have demanded the destruction of your peace. Some people misunderstood you because they were never meant to understand what God was developing inside you. And some accusations wounded you precisely because you cared about the opinions of people who were never qualified to define your identity. Yet here is the warning. Do not allow the pain caused by others to become an excuse for disobedience in your own life. You cannot keep saying, God understands, while deliberately refusing to change what you already know must change. You cannot continue walking toward the same wall and then ask God why you keep getting hurt. You cannot keep reopening the door to something God has repeatedly shown you is damaging your peace, your character, your purpose, and your relationship with Him. There comes a moment when compassion becomes correction. There comes a moment when the whisper becomes a warning. There comes a moment when God says, enough. You have seen enough. You know enough. Now choose. And perhaps this is that moment for you. Maybe your last chance is not about escaping some mysterious disaster. Maybe your last chance is about finally becoming honest with yourself. Maybe God is giving you one more opportunity to stop answering every insult. One more opportunity to stop chasing someone who continually diminishes you. One more opportunity to stop explaining yourself to people committed to misunderstanding you. One more opportunity to release bitterness before bitterness changes the person you are becoming. Because listen to me, the greatest danger is not always what someone else can do to you. Sometimes the greatest danger is what their behavior can turn you into. You were betrayed, but do not become a betrayer. You were lied about, but do not become consumed with revenge. You were abandoned, but do not abandon yourself. You were rejected, but do not spend the rest of your life begging people to validate what God already knows about you. You were mistreated, but do not allow mistreatment to become your personality. That is the trap. The enemy of your peace does not always need to destroy your circumstances. Sometimes all that is required is to keep your attention trapped inside your wounds. If you spend every morning thinking about who hurt you, every afternoon replaying what they said, and every night imagining how you will prove them wrong, they may have left your life physically while continuing to occupy your mind. God is calling you out of that prison. You keep asking God to change them, but perhaps God is changing you by teaching you that you no longer need them to change. You keep asking God to expose them, but perhaps God is exposing something even more important: your dependence on human approval. You keep asking God to make them regret losing you, but perhaps God is asking you to stop measuring your worth by whether someone regrets their decision. Do you see the difference? You have been waiting for someone else to recognize your value, while God has been teaching you to recognize His purpose for your life. And this is why the warning feels so serious. You are standing at a crossroads. One road leads backward into familiar patterns. The other leads forward into uncomfortable obedience. The backward road feels safe because you already know the scenery. You know the arguments. You know the disappointment. You know the excuses. You know exactly how the cycle works. But familiar does not mean safe. Sometimes what you call comfort is simply captivity that has become predictable. God may be asking you to leave something you have spent years trying to repair. Not because you are weak, but because you have finally learned that you cannot repair what another person is committed to destroying. God may be asking you to stop chasing a particular opportunity because your desperation has made you willing to compromise things you once considered sacred. God may be asking you to change your habits because your prayers cannot replace responsibility. God may be asking you to forgive because the bitterness is consuming more of your life than the person who hurt you ever deserved to have. God may be asking you to become silent because every explanation you give to the wrong people becomes another opportunity for them to manipulate your emotions. And maybe the most difficult instruction is this: stop trying to control the timing. You have been asking, when will it happen? God may be asking, who are you becoming while you wait? You have been asking, when will they see the truth? God may be asking, can you remain truthful even when they never do? You have been asking, when will I receive what I deserve? God may be asking, can you trust me enough to stop living as though your future depends on human recognition? That is where maturity begins. The chosen life is not a life without pressure. It is a life in which pressure reveals what must be removed. Fire reveals what cannot remain. Silence reveals what noise was hiding. Distance reveals who was truly connected to you. Delay reveals whether your faith was attached to God or merely attached to an expected outcome. And disappointment reveals whether you worship the blessing or trust the one who gives direction. Do not misunderstand your current season. The fact that something is difficult does not automatically mean God has abandoned you. Sometimes difficulty is where your character is being strengthened. Sometimes the closed door is preventing you from entering a room that would have cost you your peace. Sometimes the person you desperately wanted to keep was the very person you needed to release. You cried because you thought you were losing something. Perhaps God knew you were being rescued from something. Think about that. What if the rejection that embarrassed you was actually protection? What if the delay that frustrated you prevented you from making a decision you would later regret? What if the relationship that ended was not proof that you were unworthy, but proof that your future could no longer be built around a person who refused to respect your growth? What if the loneliness you hated became the place where you finally heard yourself think clearly again? God can use what you call an ending to prepare you for an entirely different beginning. But you must stop returning to what God is trying to teach you to release. This is the part you cannot ignore. A warning only helps the person who responds to it. You can hear 100 messages and remain unchanged. You can cry during prayer and still return to the same destructive pattern. You can say you trust God and still make decisions entirely from fear. You can declare that you are entering a new season while continuing to carry the habits of the old one. At some point, your life has to agree with your prayers. If you are asking God for peace, stop volunteering for chaos. If you are asking God for wisdom, stop ignoring what you already know. If you are asking God for a new beginning, stop worshiping your old identity. If you are asking God to strengthen you, stop treating every correction as rejection. If you are asking God to guide your steps, be willing to change direction. This may be your last chance before something happens to you. Not necessarily because disaster is waiting around the corner, but because consequences eventually catch up with repeated choices. A person can ignore warning signs for years and then call the consequence sudden. It was not sudden. The warning came, the discomfort came, the conviction came, the opportunity to change came, the closed door came, the sleepless night came, the repeated pattern came, the quiet realization came, and still, you kept going. God is merciful, but mercy should never be confused with permission to remain unchanged. If you have been given another opportunity, use it. If you know you need to apologize, do it. If you need to walk away, walk away. If you need to forgive, begin. If you need to stop lying to yourself, tell yourself the truth. If you need to rebuild your discipline, start with today. If you need to return your attention to God, do not wait for a perfect emotional moment. Obedience rarely begins when you feel completely ready. It begins when you decide that God's direction matters more than your comfort. And I know you are tired. I know there are wounds you do not talk about. I know there are names you avoid mentioning because they still carry emotional weight. I know there were nights when you wondered whether anyone would ever understand what you endured. But hear this carefully. You do not need everyone to understand what God brought you through. You need to understand what it taught you. That betrayal taught you discernment. That isolation taught you self-control. That rejection taught you that not every closed door is a curse. That false accusation taught you that your identity cannot depend on public opinion. That abandonment taught you that human presence is not the foundation of your existence. That painful season taught you that you can lose people without losing God. And now God is asking you something harder than surviving. He is asking you to grow. Do not waste your suffering by becoming permanently bitter because of it. Take the lesson, take the wisdom, take the maturity, take the stronger boundaries. Take the deeper dependence on God, but leave the poison behind. You do not have to carry resentment into a future that was never responsible for your past. You do not have to punish tomorrow for what yesterday did to you. You do not have to make innocent people pay for wounds they did not create. You do not have to keep proving that you were right. Let God handle what you cannot control. There is power in refusing to chase every accusation. There is power in becoming quiet when your flesh wants to react. There is power in saying, God knows the truth, and then continuing to live with integrity. Because when you stop fighting for everyone's approval, something changes inside you. Your energy returns, your focus returns, your peace returns. Your vision becomes clearer, and you begin to realize that the person who tried to destroy your confidence did not have the authority you gave them. You gave them too much power. Take it back. Not through revenge, through growth, not through humiliation, through discipline, not through proving them wrong, through becoming everything God is calling you to become. The person who betrayed you does not need to watch your transformation. The people who rejected you do not need front row seats to your future. The ones who misunderstood, you do not need a detailed explanation of where God is taking you. Sometimes the strongest response is simply to keep walking. Keep walking when nobody applauds. Keep walking when the evidence has not appeared. Keep walking when your emotions fluctuate. Keep walking when your old life calls your name. Keep walking when temptation tells you that returning would be easier. It may be easier, but easy is not always obedience. You have prayed too long to keep surrendering your future to temporary emotions. You have survived too much to keep making decisions from the wounds of yesterday. This is the moment to become serious about your life. Not tomorrow, not when everyone approves, not when the fear disappears. Now, let this warning become a turning point. Let it interrupt the cycle. Let it expose the excuse. Let it break the agreement you made with fear. Let it remind you that God is not asking you to understand every step before you take the next one. You only need enough courage to obey the light you have been given. And if God is telling you to release it, release it. If God is telling you to wait, wait without destroying yourself with anxiety. If God is telling you to move, move without begging everyone to come with you. If God is telling you to be silent without feeling guilty. If God is telling you to begin again without allowing your past to introduce itself as your future. Your story is not finished because someone walked away. Your purpose did not die because someone rejected you. Your value did not decrease because someone failed to recognize it. And your future is not controlled by the people who once wounded you. God sees what people cannot see. God knows what people do not know. God understands the tears you never explained. God knows the conversations you had in your mind when you could not find the words to speak aloud. God knows how many times you almost gave up and still got out of bed. God knows the battles you fought privately. So stop acting as though you must convince the entire world that you are worthy of another chance. You are not asking the world for permission to become who God is calling you to become. Rise, not because everything is perfect. Rise because you finally understand that remaining down will not heal what happened. Rise because the warning came before the consequence. Rise because the door of change is still open. Rise because God is still giving you an opportunity to choose differently. And if this is your last chance to leave a destructive pattern, leave it. If this is your last chance to repair something that can still be repaired, repair it. If this is your last chance to tell the truth, tell it. If this is your last chance to forgive yourself for a mistake God has already taught you from, forgive yourself. If this is your last chance to stop returning to what repeatedly breaks you, stop. Do not wait for another warning. Do not wait until the cost becomes unbearable. Do not wait until the lesson becomes more painful. You do not need another wound to confirm what wisdom has already revealed. Choose God while the choice is clear. Choose truth while you still have the courage to face it. Choose discipline while your future can still be redirected. Choose peace while you still have the strength to protect it. And when the old version of you whispers, go back, answer with certainty, I have learned enough. You are not going backward. You are not begging for what rejected you. You are not chasing what God is teaching you to release. You are not living to prove your worth to people who already decided not to see it. You are moving forward with God. And perhaps one day you will look back at this exact moment and realize that the warning you thought was frightening was actually mercy. The door was still open. The choice was still yours. The opportunity was still in front of you. God was not trying to destroy you. God was trying to wake you before you destroyed yourself by continuing to choose what He was calling you to leave behind. So wake up. Let the old pattern end here. Let the obsession end here. Let the bitterness end here. Let the fear end here. Let the need for human approval end here. Let the endless waiting for someone else to validate you end here. You have cried enough over what cannot be changed. Now build what can be changed. You have explained enough. Now live. You have waited enough for people to understand. Now walk. You have looked backward long enough. Now lift your eyes. And whatever happens next, remember this. A warning is not the end of your story. Sometimes it is the moment your story finally changes. God has given you another breath, another decision, another opportunity, another morning, another chance to choose differently. Do not waste it, because the life you keep praying for may require you to finally release the life you keep returning to. And tonight, when the noise becomes quiet and you are alone with your thoughts, do not ask only, why did they do this to me? Ask the deeper question, what is God asking me to become now? Then listen, and when you know, do not delay. Me with courage, me with wisdom, me with clean hands and a clear heart. Move without revenge, me without fear, me without needing applause, because the warning has reached you. The choice is in front of you, and this time, choose the path that brings you closer to God, even if it takes you farther away from everything that once felt familiar. Do not be afraid of the door closing behind you. Some doors need to close so completely that you stop wondering whether you should go back. Walk forward. The past has already spoken. Now, let your obedience speak louder. There is another layer to this warning that you cannot afford to miss. Sometimes God does not remove the danger immediately because He is giving you time to recognize it. He gives you moments of conviction before consequences. He gives you opportunities to change before circumstances force change upon you. And that is why you must stop interpreting every delay as permission to continue. Just because nothing has happened yet does not mean nothing is wrong. The absence of immediate consequences is not proof that your choices are harmless. You may have been asking God for a sign, while the sign has already been sitting in front of you through repeated patterns. How many times must the same situation disappoint you before you admit that something has to change? How many times must the same person cross the same boundary before you stop calling it an accident? How many times must you betray your own peace to keep someone else comfortable? You keep asking for clarity, but perhaps clarity is not your problem. Courage is. There is a difference between not knowing what to do and knowing what to do, but being afraid of what obedience will cost. That difference matters. You already know some of the things you need to release. You already know which conversations leave you drained. You already know which environments pull you backward. You already know which habits weaken your discipline. You already know which excuses you repeat whenever you do not want to confront yourself. So do not hide behind confusion when the real issue is fear. Fear says, what if I leave and nobody comes? God says, what if staying keeps you from becoming who you were meant to become? Fear says, what if I start over and fail? God says, what if refusing to start guarantees that nothing changes? Fear says, what if they hate me? God says, what if your obsession with their approval causes you to abandon your own convictions? This is where your last chance becomes powerful. It is not merely about something happening to you. It is about something happening inside you before you are ready. Your heart can become hardened. Your standards can become lower. Your expectations can become poisoned. Your ability to trust wisely can become damaged. Your conscience can become quieter every time you ignore it. That is why you must respond while your heart is still sensitive. Do not wait until you no longer care. Do not wait until the wrong thing feels normal. Do not wait until the unhealthy relationship feels impossible to leave because you have forgotten who you were before it. Do not wait until resentment becomes so familiar that peace feels uncomfortable. There are people who stayed in destructive situations so long that they eventually began defending what was destroying them. They called control love. They called fear loyalty. They called dependency commitment. They called emotional exhaustion patience. They renamed their chains because admitting they were chained would require them to make a difficult decision. Do not become that person. God did not give you discernment so that you could continuously ignore it. Maybe you have been feeling uncomfortable because your life is trying to move in a direction your habits refuse to follow. Your spirit knows that something has changed, but your emotions keep demanding the old version of your life. That tension is painful. But sometimes discomfort is evidence that you are outgrowing something. You cannot enter a new season while continually negotiating with the habits that kept you trapped in the old one. There must be a moment when you stop negotiating. Stop saying, just one more time. Stop saying, I will deal with it later. Stop saying, maybe they will change. Stop saying, maybe this time will be different. Stop making promises to yourself that your behavior immediately breaks. If God has shown you the pattern, respect what you have been shown. And I know what you are thinking. But I have already lost so much. Yes, you lost people, you lost opportunities, you lost time, you lost trust. You lost versions of yourself that you thought would last forever. But do not make the mistake of believing that because you lost something, you must recover it. Some losses are not assignments for restoration. Some losses are instructions for release. You do not need everything you lost back. You need the wisdom to understand why you were willing to hold on to it. That is where healing becomes deeper. You stop asking, how do I get them back? You start asking, why did I keep abandoning myself to keep them? You stop asking, how do I make them regret hurting me? You start asking, why did their opinion become more important than my peace? You stop asking, how do I prove them wrong? You start asking, why did I need their agreement to feel secure? Those questions can change your life because they take power away from the person who hurt you and place responsibility back where it belongs, in your own decisions. And this is not condemnation. It is freedom. You cannot control what someone did to you, but you can decide what their behavior is allowed to produce in you. You can refuse to let betrayal make you dishonest. You can refuse to let rejection make you desperate. You can refuse to let abandonment make you emotionally unavailable to everyone. You can refuse to let false accusations turn you into someone who constantly defends yourself. You can refuse to let manipulation teach you to manipulate. Your pain does not get to write your character, God does. That is why you must protect your heart without closing it completely. There is a difference between discernment and suspicion. There is a difference between boundaries and bitterness. There is a difference between wisdom and isolation. You may have been hurt so badly that now you assume everyone will hurt you. But that is another prison. One person's betrayal does not give you permission to punish every future relationship. God may bring trustworthy people into your life, but you will never recognize them if you remain obsessed with the people who were untrustworthy. Release the courtroom in your mind. You do not need to keep prosecuting the same case every night. You have replayed the conversation enough. You have imagined what you should have said enough. You have created hundreds of imaginary confrontations in your mind. You have already won arguments that never happened, and yet you are still tired. Why? Because imaginary victories do not produce real peace. At some point, you have to leave the courtroom and return to your life. Let God deal with what you cannot settle. Your job is not to make every person admit what they did. Your job is to remain faithful to what God is asking from you. There will be people who never apologize. There will be people who rewrite history. There will be people who tell others a version of your story that protects their own image. Let them. Truth does not become false because someone refuses to acknowledge it. You do not have to chase every rumor. You do not have to answer every accusation. You do not have to explain every misunderstanding. Sometimes silence is not weakness. Sometimes silence is the refusal to give chaos another place to live inside you. But be careful. Silence should not become avoidance. If you owe someone accountability, take it. If you caused harm, admit it. If you made a mistake, correct it. Spiritual maturity is not pretending you are always right. It is being humble enough to confront yourself when God exposes something in you. The warning applies to you too. Do not become so focused on what others did that you become blind to what you are doing. That is one of the easiest traps for a wounded person. You can become so convinced that you are the victim that you stop examining your own behavior. Maybe you were mistreated. Maybe you were falsely accused. Maybe you were betrayed. But ask yourself honestly, what did that experience teach you about yourself? Where did you become controlling? Where did you become defensive? Where did you stop listening? Where did pride enter? Where did fear begin making your decisions? Where did you start pushing away people who genuinely cared because you expected them to become like the people who hurt you? God can heal you without allowing you to remain innocent of self-examination. You do not need shame, you need truth. And truth can hurt before it heals. There are things God may be asking you to surrender that nobody else knows about. A secret habit, a private obsession, a hidden resentment, a desire you keep feeding, a decision you keep postponing, a relationship you know is unhealthy, a financial pattern that keeps destroying your stability, a habit of speaking negatively about yourself, a constant comparison with other people's lives. Nobody else may see it, but God sees it. And perhaps this is why this message is reaching you at this moment. not to expose you publicly, to confront you privately. Because God does not need to embarrass you to transform you. He needs your honesty. Say to yourself, God, I know what I have been avoiding. That sentence can be the beginning of a new life. Not because you suddenly become perfect, but because you stop hiding. You stop pretending. You stop making excuses. You stop blaming everyone else. You stop waiting for someone to rescue you from decisions you have the responsibility to make. And when you finally face yourself, something powerful happens. The fear begins to lose its authority because much of what you feared was not the decision itself. You feared the emotional consequences of making it. You feared being lonely. You feared disappointing someone. You feared starting again. You feared uncertainty. You feared being judged. You feared discovering that you had invested years into something that was never meant to last. But wasted years do not become valuable by wasting more years. That is another warning you need to hear. Do not remain somewhere simply because you have already spent too much time there. Time already spent is gone. You cannot recover it by sacrificing more. If you have walked in the wrong direction for 10 miles, turning around is not failure. Continuing for another 10 miles because you are embarrassed to admit you are going the wrong way is foolishness. Turn around. God is not impressed by your ability to remain miserable. God cares about whether you are willing to become obedient. And perhaps your biggest breakthrough will begin with a decision that looks small to everyone else. You stop answering the message. You stop returning to the argument. You stop checking the person's life. You stop spending money you do not have. You stop postponing the work. You stop speaking against yourself. You stop allowing people to cross boundaries. You wake up when you said you would. You pray when you said you would. You work when you said you would. You tell the truth when lying would be easier. You keep your word when nobody is watching. These choices may look ordinary, but ordinary obedience builds extraordinary character. Do not wait for a dramatic miracle while ignoring the small responsibilities already in your hands. You may be asking God for a bigger life while neglecting the life you already have. You want greater opportunities, but can you manage the responsibilities you currently possess? You want influence, but can you remain humble? You want abundance, but can you remain disciplined? You want healthy relationships, but can you communicate honestly? You want peace, but can you stop feeding chaos? You want a new identity, but are you willing to abandon the habits that contradict it? The future does not merely require a new opportunity. It requires a new capacity. And God may be preparing that capacity in you right now. This is why the waiting has been so uncomfortable. You thought nothing was happening. Something was happening. You were being confronted with yourself. You were discovering what you tolerate. You were discovering what you fear. You were discovering what controls your emotions. You were discovering where your faith becomes weak. You were discovering how easily you can become distracted by people. That knowledge is valuable if you use it. Do not waste the revelation. And chosen one, understand this. Being chosen does not mean being exempt from correction. If anything, responsibility becomes greater when you know better. Do not use spiritual language to avoid practical responsibility. Do not say, God will handle it, when you are the one who needs to make the decision. Do not call procrastination patience. Do not call avoidance peace. Do not call fear discernment. Do not call attachment loyalty. Call things what they are. Truth becomes powerful when you stop decorating it with excuses. Maybe you are not waiting. Maybe you are avoiding. Maybe you are not confused. Maybe you are afraid. Maybe you are not protecting your peace. Maybe you are protecting your attachment. Maybe you are not being patient with someone. Maybe you are afraid to admit they are not changing. Maybe you are not struggling to forgive. Maybe you are still emotionally attached to the right to punish them in your mind. Be honest. God can work with honesty. God can transform a heart that admits its weakness. But you cannot heal what you refuse to acknowledge. So let today be different. Not because everything around you changed, because you did. Let the warning enter deeper than your emotions. Do not listen to this merely to feel inspired for 10 minutes. Let it challenge a decision. Let it expose a habit. Let it force you to ask a question you have avoided. Let it move you from emotional reaction to deliberate action. Because your next season will not be built by what you intend to do. It will be built by what you repeatedly choose. And one day, you may realize that the thing you feared losing was actually the thing preventing you from becoming free. You may realize that the rejection was not your humiliation. It was your redirection. You may realize that the betrayal was not the end of your story. It was the moment you learned discernment. You may realize that the loneliness was not abandonment. It was a season in which God taught you how to stand without depending on constant human reassurance. You may realize that the closed door was not punishment. It was protection. But you will only see that clearly if you stop trying to reopen every door that closed. Leave some doors closed. Not every closed door needs a second attempt. Not every person deserves another chance. Not every opportunity deserves your attention. Not every invitation deserves your yes. Not every argument deserves your response. Not every accusation deserves your defense. Your life is too valuable to spend all of it reacting. There is a different kind of strength waiting for you. The strength to pause. The strength to walk away. The strength to say no. The strength to admit you were wrong. The strength to begin again. The strength to remain silent. The strength to forgive without returning to the same environment. The strength to love without abandoning wisdom. The strength to trust God even when you do not understand the timing. That is the strength you need now, because the greatest warning is not that something outside you might happen. The greatest warning is that you might remain the same person after everything God has already shown you. Do not let that happen. You have learned too much. You have survived too much. You have cried too many tears. You have spent too many nights asking God for direction. Relax for a moment and listen closely, because what I am about to tell you has the power to break the fear that has been tightening itself around your heart. There is a reason your path has been heavy, a reason your spirit has been restless, a reason your thoughts have been pulling you in every direction. You have been trying to carry a future that does not belong in your hands. You have been trying to force a door open that only God can unlock. And today, God is whispering into the deepest part of your being, relax. If God wants it to happen, it will. Not by your anxiety, not by your panic, not by your desperate attempts to control every outcome. It will happen because God has written it into your destiny. And nothing, not fear, not people, not circumstances can erase what God has ordained. There comes a moment in every person's life when their strength collapses under the weight of uncertainty. You may reach a season where you feel like nothing is moving, nothing is changing, and every prayer feels suspended in the air with no response. And yet in that silence, God is working with a precision you cannot see. You think the delay is punishment, but God sees it as preparation. You think the waiting means the blessing is not coming, but God sees it as protection from something not intended for you. You think the situation is stagnant, but God is aligning circumstances, shifting hearts, and shaping opportunities that will unfold exactly when He chooses. When you truly understand that God is responsible for outcomes, your heart stops suffocating under pressure. You begin to breathe again, you begin to live again, you begin to trust again, because you realize that nothing you chase will ever arrive before its divine time, and nothing meant for you will ever pass you by. Many people live as if their life depends on human approval. They beg for opportunities. They force relationships. They manipulate the situations. They run after people who do not value them. And the more they chase, the more life slips out of their grip. But a person who trusts God walks differently. They move with calmness. They carry a confidence that cannot be shaken by rejection or delay. They have an inner stillness because they know something the restless soul does not know. If God wants it to happen, it will happen. If God does not, then even if the whole world tries to make it happen, it will fall apart. There is nothing more powerful than a heart that has surrendered the need to control the future. That heart no longer trembles when plans fall apart because it understands that God is rearranging something better. That heart no longer crumbles when people walk away because it knows that God removes what is not meant to stay. That heart no longer breaks under pressure because it is anchored in the truth that God sees beyond what the human eye can perceive. You may think something is good for you. You may think a door is the right door. You may think a path makes sense. But God sees the trap behind what looks attractive. God sees the suffering behind what looks promising. God sees the heartbreak behind what looks beautiful. And when God blocks something you wanted, it is not rejection, it is divine rescue. You must understand something deeply. God does not operate according to your schedule. Human beings want things instantly. They want the results now. They want the answers today. They want the clarity without waiting. But God's timing is a divine tool, a spiritual filter, a refining process. What God gives you quickly can disappear quickly. But what God prepares over time becomes unshakable, unstoppable, undeniable. When God finally releases what He has written for your life, it arrives with such power that no human hand can hold it back. That is why some breakthroughs take years. That is why some prayers are answered slowly. That is why some seasons feel endless. Because God is not just preparing the blessing, God is preparing you. You may think you are ready, but God knows the pride that could rise in you if the blessing came too soon. God knows the weaknesses that could destroy the opportunity if you were elevated prematurely. God knows the people around you who are not meant to see what He is about to do. God knows the environment that must change before He releases the next step. And so God waits, and you must learn to wait with Him. Because peace does not come from having everything sorted out. Peace comes from knowing that God is sorting everything out, even when you cannot see the process. There are people right now who are exhausted, not because the journey is too long, but because they have been trying to carry what God already promised to carry for them. You worry about your future as if God is not already standing in your tomorrow. You panic about closed doors as if God cannot open new ones. You obsess over other people's decisions as if they have more authority over your destiny than God Himself. You try to micromanage every situation because you fear losing control. But here is the truth. You were never in control to begin with, and the moment you accept that is the moment your spirit finds rest, relax. If God wanted to happen, it will. No matter who dislikes you, no matter who doubts you, no matter who tries to block you, no matter what mistakes you made, no matter how late you think you are, no matter how impossible it looks, God does not consult people before blessing you. God does not check your past before opening a new future. God does not measure your worth by your failures. When God decides it is time, the door will open, not gradually, not slowly, but suddenly, powerfully, unmistakably. God's timing is not based on human logic, it is based on divine design. Look back at your life. Think about the moments you worried endlessly, the moments you lost sleep, the moments you cried, the moments you feared everything would collapse, and yet here you are. You survived the storms you thought would break you. You overcame situations you thought would end you. You outgrew people you once thought you needed. You found clarity after confusion, strength after weakness, direction after being lost. If you could see how God was guiding you all along, you would trust God more boldly in the present. The same God who carried you before is carrying you now. The same God who rescued you from what you didn't understand is guiding you through what you cannot see. The same God who protected you then is protecting you now. And the same God who gave you strength before will give you strength again. Have you ever noticed how the things you tried to force never truly brought you peace? How the situations you manipulated fell apart anyway? How the people you chased never valued you the way you hoped? That is because anything you force will eventually break. Anything you beg for will eventually wound you. Anything you cling to out of fear will eventually slip out of your grasp. But anything God gives will last. Anything God appoints will flourish. Anything God aligns will unfold naturally, without pressure, without fear, without desperation. You do not need to exhaust yourself to receive what God has already written with your name on it. There are people who think they were forgotten by God because their life has been moving slowly. They think the delay means they have been overlooked. They think silence means abandonment. But God's silence is not absence. God's silence is strategy. God is preparing something in the unseen realm long before it becomes visible in your life. A blessing that arrives too early becomes a burden, but a blessing that arrives on God's schedule becomes a breakthrough. That is why the blessing may feel slow, but when it comes, it will come with such a force that it will override every season of waiting, every hour of disappointment, every moment of doubt. God is not delaying your blessing, God is perfecting it. There are moments when God tests the depth of your trust. He removes the noise. He slows the journey. He closes doors. He takes people out of your life. He allows uncertainty, not to punish you, but to teach you a higher form of a faith. Because a true faith is not when everything goes your way. True faith is when you stand firm, even when everything looks unclear. True faith is when you say, I do not see the answer, but I know God has already written it. True faith is when you stop fighting for control and start resting in God's control. True faith is when you stop asking, why is this happening? And start saying, God, guide me through this. Relax. If God wants it to happen, nothing can stop it. If God does not, nothing can force it. And this truth is not meant to make you passive. It is meant to make you peaceful. When you release the fear of missing out, you begin to walk with spiritual confidence. When you release the fear of losing opportunities, you begin to attract what aligns with your soul. When you release the fear of uncertainty, you begin to feel the presence of God guiding you step by step. God never intended for you to live in panic. God never intended for you to live anxious about every decision. God never intended for you to wake up overwhelmed or go to bed afraid. God intended for you to live with trust, with calmness, with spiritual authority. You may not understand what God is doing right now, but trust that God is doing something. You may not see the change yet, but trust that the change is already happening. You may not see the path, but trust that the path is already carved out. You may not see the opportunity, but trust that the opportunity is forming behind the scenes. You may not see the blessing, but trust that the blessing is being prepared with the details so perfect that you will look back and say, now I understand why God made me wait. Life becomes beautiful when you stop forcing and start flowing, when you stop pushing and start trusting, when you stop panicking and start resting in God's plan. You are not behind. You are not forgotten. You are not overlooked. You are exactly where God needs you to be for the next part of your journey. But your spirit must learn to relax. Anxiety blocks clarity. Fear blocks wisdom. Desperation blocks discernment. But trust opens the heart. Trust sharpens the vision. Trust awakens the soul. And trust in God is what transforms a restless life into a purposeful one. Your future is not fragile. Your destiny is not unstable. Your blessings are not in danger. What God ordains cannot be stopped by any force on earth, not by people, not by circumstances, not by your own fears. You think everything depends on you, but everything depends on God. And when you realize that, you stop living with the pressure of controlling outcomes and start living with the peace of surrender. You are not meant to fight every battle. You are not meant to chase every opportunity. You are not meant to worry about every detail. You are meant to trust the one who already knows the end from the beginning. You are meant to walk with assurance that God is leading your steps. You are meant to breathe freely, knowing that God is clearing the path in front of you. You are meant to rest deeply, knowing that God is fighting the battles you cannot see. Relax. If God wants it to happen, it will. And not even your fear can stop it. Not even your mistakes can stop it. Not even your doubts can stop it. When God decides it is time, everything will shift. People will show up unexpectedly. Doors will open effortlessly. Opportunities will align flawlessly. Circumstances will rearrange supernaturally. What looked impossible will suddenly look easy. What looked blocked will suddenly swing open. What looked delayed will suddenly accelerate. That is the power of divine timing. And when that moment comes, you will understand why God asked you to trust, why God asked you to wait, why God asked on you to stay still, why God asked you to release control. Because God was not withholding anything from you. God was preparing everything for you. Sometimes God delays things because He knows you would settle if they came too early. You would settle for someone not meant for your spirit. You would settle for an opportunity too small for your purpose. You would settle for a life far below your potential. God loves you too much to allow you to settle. That is why God closes doors you try to force open. That is why God removes people you cling. That is why God blocks paths that look promising. Because God knows what you truly need, and God is determined to give you nothing less than what aligns with your destiny. Relax. You don't have to compete for what is yours. You don't have to fear losing what God has appointed for you. You don't have to chase validation, approval, or acceptance. What is meant for you is coming towards you in divine timing. It will not miss you. It will not overlook you. It will not forget you. When it is time, God will deliver it directly into your life, and no one will be able to claim credit for it. You are entering a season where you must protect your peace by trusting God more deeply than ever before. When thoughts of fear rise, remind yourself that God is in control. When doubts whisper in your ear, remind yourself that God has never failed you. When anxiety tries to steal your sleep, remind yourself that God is working even while you rest. When impatience tries to make you force things, remind yourself that God's timing is perfect. When the enemy tries to plant panic in your heart, remind yourself that God's plan is unfolding with divine precision. Everything you are worried about is already in God's hands. Everything you are confused about is already written in God's plan. Everything you fear losing is already protected by God's power. Everything you think is impossible is already possible for God. And everything you desire that aligns with your soul will arrive exactly when your spirit is ready to receive it. Relax, trust, surrender. God is not done with you. God is not ignoring you. God is not delaying you. God is preparing you for a life that will make sense only when you see the full picture. And when it unfolds, you will realize that every unanswered prayer, every delay, every closed door, every quiet season, every lonely night, every disappointment, and every detour was shaping you into someone capable of carrying the blessing without losing yourself. Then listen even more deeply, because God is not finished speaking to your heart. There is another layer of this truth you must understand, another dimension of a peace that God wants to release into your spirit. When God says relax, it is not an invitation to be passive. It is an invitation to rise with the spiritual maturity. To relax in God is to stand firm in the understanding that God's wisdom far surpasses your own. To relax in God is to shift from struggling to aligning, from pushing to flowing, from fearing to trusting. Many think trust is quiet, weak, or gentle, but trust in God is one of the strongest forces on earth. A heart that trusts God cannot be manipulated, cannot be intimidated, cannot be shaken. It walks boldly, speaks confidently, lives peacefully, because it knows that everything unfolding in life is under the watch of a flawless, all-seeing God who never makes a mistake. There are seasons when God will remove the illusion of control from your life. You may try to plan every detail, but the plans collapse. You may try to secure every angle, but uncertainty increases. You may try to depend on people, but they become inconsistent. These seasons are not attacks, they are awakenings. God is gently dismantling the false structures you have relied on, so your spirit can learn to stand on the only foundation that never moves, God alone. When God shakes your life, it is never to destroy you. It is to detach you from what is unstable so you can attach yourself to what is eternal. And when your heart finally recognizes that the only true safety comes from relying on God, A new strength rises within you. A strength not based on circumstances, but on faith. Not based on predictability, but on surrender. Not based on clarity, but on conviction. Relaxing in God does not mean you stop moving. It means you stop forcing. You still work, but without panic. You still prepare, but without fear. You still dream, but without desperation. You still take steps forward, but without the anxiety that tries to convince you that everything depends on your effort. When you trust God deeply, you no longer move from pressure, you move from peace. And when your actions come from peace, they are guided by wisdom, not by fear. This is why a person who trusts God accomplishes more with a calm spirit than a fearful soul accomplishes with a frantic effort. Fear drives you in circles. Faith drives you forward. Fear exhausts you. Faith empowers you. Fear blinds you. Faith clarifies your path. And it is only when you choose to relax in God that your life begins to align with the divine rhythm He has prepared for you. There will be moments when God deliberately slows you down, not to hinder you, but to protect you from entering seasons you are not yet equipped for. What feels like delay is sometimes divine insulation, God shielding you from a battle that would have crushed you if you walked into it too early. God can see the traps your eyes cannot detect. God can hear conversations your ears will never witness. God can feel the intentions of a people long before they reveal themselves. And when God slows your step, it is because He is guiding you through hidden danger, moving you away from unseen harm, or preparing something ahead that requires your arrival at the perfect moment, not too soon, not too late. When you truly grasp this, you stop asking, why hasn't it happened yet? And start declaring, God is preparing the perfect way for me. Relaxing in God also means releasing the timeline you created in your mind. Many people imprison themselves with expectations of when life should change, when the blessing should arrive, when the breakthrough should manifest. You compare your journey with others and wonder why someone else received what you have been praying for. But comparison is the thief of trust. What God arranged for them is not what God arranged for you. And the timing God chose for them is not the timing God chose for you. Your story is uniquely woven by the hands of God, and no other life can serve as a reference point for your path. When you release comparison, you reclaim your peace. When you release the demand for things to happen on your schedule, you reclaim your freedom. When you release the need to understand every detail, you reclaim your spiritual strength. You must remember this truth. God creates blessings that require divine maturity to handle. If you receive something before you are spiritually stabilized, it will overwhelm you instead of elevating you. That is why God invested time in preparing you, shaping you, refining you. Every delay is strengthening something inside you. Your patience, your discernment, your self-discipline, your humility, your emotional resilience, your ability to remain faithful in uncertainty. God is building the spiritual muscles needed to carry the weight of the destiny ahead of you. A house built quickly collapses quickly, but a house built slowly and wisely stands unshaken through storms. God is constructing something within you that will endure every season of life. And that kind of shaping does not happen overnight. Relaxing also means trusting that God knows how to bring everything together without your interference. You may think your life is a scattered puzzle with missing pieces. You see broken chapters, painful memories, unanswered prayers, sudden losses, unexpected turns. But God sees the entire picture. Every piece is in His hand, and He knows where each one belongs. What looks random to you is intentional to God. What feels disconnected to you is divinely linked in the unseen realm. What you call mistakes are often stepping stones God used to redirect your path. What you call losses are often releases God orchestrated to free your future. What you call confusion is often the cloud cover before divine clarity breaks through. God does not waste a single moment of your life. Every detail, every lesson, every hardship is a thread in the tapestry of a destiny greater than anything you could imagine. When God tells you to relax, He's calling you to rise above your emotions. Emotions are powerful, but they can also deceive you. Fear can convince you that you are alone. Anxiety can convince you that God is silent. Impatience can convince you that you are stuck. Doubt can convince you that your prayer is ignored. But faith lifts you above the turbulence of emotions. Faith gives you spiritual clarity when the mind is overwhelmed. Faith shows you that God is closest in the moments that feel the quietest. Faith reminds you that your feelings are temporary, but God's plan is permanent. When you learn to relax in God, you stop interpreting life based on fear and start interpreting life based on faith. Another layer of this truth is learning to detach from outcomes while remaining committed to obedience. You do not need to know how God will do it. You do not need to know when God will do it. You do not need to know through whom God will do it. You only need to continue walking in obedience. Obedience in character, obedience in patience, obedience in humility, obedience in trust. When you obey God, you align yourself with the divine flow, and blessings naturally flow toward you. When you relax and stop trying to manipulate outcomes, you create a spiritual space for God to move freely in your life. And God moves most powerfully in surrendered hearts, not in restless ones. Relaxing in God is not weakness. It is the highest form of spiritual strength. Anyone can panic. Anyone can worry. Anyone can complain. Anyone can fear. But it takes spiritual power to remain calm under pressure, to trust when nothing makes sense, to stay grounded when life feels unstable, to keep believing when everything appears delayed. A person who has learned to relax in God becomes a vessel of unshakable peace. Their presence brings calm to others. Their words carry weight. Their decisions reflect wisdom. Their life radiates spiritual maturity. And this is exactly what God wants to develop in you, a heart so rooted in trust that no storm can uproot your inner peace. There will come a time when you look back and realize that the things that once terrified you were actually blessings in disguise. The unanswered prayer was protection. The closed door was mercy. The setback was preparation. The silence was God's strategy. The delay was divine timing. What you call obstacles were actually the hands of God shaping you for something far greater. And when that realization fills your heart, gratitude will overflow from your spirit. You will thank God for not giving you what you wanted too early. You will thank God for removing people who could not walk into your next season. You will thank God for the changes that seemed painful at the time but saved your destiny. You will thank God for every moment He asked you to relax, because now you can see what He was preparing behind the scenes. Relaxing in God also means believing deeply that no force on earth can sabotage what God has ordained for your life. People may try, circumstances may interfere. The enemy may attempt to plant fear, confusion, or distraction. But the power of God is above every earthly and spiritual force. What God wills will unfold regardless of opposition. What God decides will manifest regardless of a delay. What God appoints will arrive regardless of obstacles. No one can cancel your destiny. No one can take what is written for you. No one can prematurely end what God is still shaping. The only thing that can weaken your journey is your inability to trust. And that is why God keeps whispering, relax, let me be God in your life. You must also recognize that God often waits until the very last moment to reveal His plan. This is not to frighten you, it is to strengthen your faith. When things seem impossible, that is when God's power becomes undeniable. When all options collapse, that is when God's intervention becomes unmistakable. When you run out of solutions, that is when God's wisdom becomes evident. God allows situations to reach their breaking point so that you may witness His ability to restore, rebuild, revive, and redirect in ways that exceed every expectation. If everything were easy, you would not learn trust. If everything happened instantly, you would not develop spiritual endurance. If everything unfolded according to your plans, you would never understand the beauty of God's plans. Relaxing in God means believing that even when life appears chaotic, God's order is still governing everything. God is not surprised by your situation. God is not confused by your obstacles. God is not intimidated by your challenges. God is not overwhelmed by your fears. God has already mapped your journey, measured your battles, equipped your spirit, and prepared your breakthrough. You are not walking through life blindly. God is guiding you step by step, moment by moment, season by season. And when you truly internalize this, anxiety loses its grip on your mind. Fear loses its power over your decisions. Doubt loses its ability to weaken your spirit. Relax. If God wants it to happen, it will. And if it does not happen, trust that God is protecting you from something you cannot yet understand. You do not see the full story. You do not have the full picture. You do not know what lies ahead. But God does. And that is enough. Surrendering to God's will is not giving up. It is rising into the highest form of spiritual intelligence. It is saying, God knows what I cannot see. God controls what I cannot change. God understands what I cannot grasp. And God chooses what I cannot comprehend. This kind of a surrender unlocks peace that no circumstance can destabilize. When you finally reach the point where your heart surrenders every fear, every timeline, every unanswered question into the hands of God, a profound quietness settles into your soul, a quietness that the world cannot shake and circumstances cannot steal. It is the quietness of knowing that your life is not drifting aimlessly, it is being guided with a divine precision. It is the quietness of realizing that nothing meant for you can be taken and nothing not meant for you can be forced. It is the quietness that comes from trusting that God's wisdom is greater than your understanding. God's timing is wiser than your urgency, and God's protection is stronger than your plans. All along, God has been shaping you, strengthening you, preparing you. All along, God has been removing what would break you and aligning what will bless you. And when the moment arrives, when the door opens, when the path clears, when the blessing unfolds, you will look back and see that everything made sense, every delay had a purpose, every silence held a meaning, and every detour was a part of a design far more beautiful than anything you could ever imagined. So relax your mind, steady your spirit, and anchor your heart, because what God has written for you will not miss you. What God has ordained will come to pass. And when it does, you will understand why God kept whispering to your soul again and again, trust, breathe, and release, because if God wants it to happen, it will. And as you walk forward from this moment, carry this truth like a shield over your heart. You are never behind. You are never forgotten, and you are never overlooked. God has not skipped over your name. God has not delayed your blessing out of neglect. God has not withheld your breakthrough without purpose. Every step you've taken, whether in joy, confusion, or struggle, has been leading you toward a destination crafted by divine wisdom. And when you finally align your spirit with this reality, the pressure lifts, the fear dissolves, and your soul breathes freely again. For the first time, you begin to live not from anxiety, but from assurance, not from striving, but from surrender, not from exhaustion, but from spiritual rest. Because you know now with unshakable conviction that your story is safe, your future is protected, your destiny is secure, and whatever God has written for your life is already moving toward you step by step, moment by moment, in a way no human force can interfere with. So take courage, walk gently, hold your peace, and rest in the certainty that the God who shaped your beginning is the same God who is guiding your ending, and everything in between is unfolding exactly as it should. And let this final truth settle deep into your spirit. The peace you seek is not found in knowing what comes next, but in knowing the one who controls what comes next. You have spent so many nights wrestling with the questions that were never yours to carry, trying to predict outcomes only God can determine, trying to force doors that were never shaped for your hands. But now God is inviting you into a different kind of life, a life where your heart is no longer tossed by uncertainty, where your value is no longer measured by speed, and where your joy is no longer dependent on what you can achieve. This is the life of someone who trusts God fully, who walks with calm authority because they know their steps are ordered, who rest without fear because they know their destiny is guarded, and who waits without anxiety because they know nothing ordained for them can ever be lost. And the more you release your grip on the outcomes you once obsessed over, the more you begin to see signs of God's subtle guidance everywhere. A door closes, but another one quietly opens. A person leaves, but someone more aligned with your purpose enters. A plan fails, but a better path emerges. A season ends, but a stronger, wiser version of you steps forward. These are not coincidences. These are confirmations that God has never stopped working on your behalf. Even in the chapters that felt silent or confusing, you are not at the mercy of a chance. You are moving under the direction of a God who knows exactly what you need, exactly when you need it, and exactly how it should arrive. So release the urgency that has been draining your spirit. Release the fear that has been tightening your chest. Release the doubt that has been whispering lies to your mind. You are not waiting alone. You are waiting with God. And waiting with God is never wasted time. It is a preparation time, strengthening time, clarifying time. It is the sacred space where God aligns your heart with what He has already written for your future. And when the moment of fulfillment arrives, it will not come with confusion or chaos, but with a deep, unmistakable peace that lets you know this is it. This is the moment God prepared me for. So breathe again, walk forward with a calm spirit, live from a place of quiet confidence, because when you truly understand that if God wanted to happen, nothing can stop it, and if God does not want it to happen, nothing can force it, you step into a level of freedom that transforms your entire life. You become unshakable, unmoved by temporary storms, undistracted by delays, untouched by fear. And in that place of spiritual surrender, you finally experience the peace that has been waiting for you all along. The peace that comes not from having control, but from knowing that God always has you in the palm of His hand, guiding you toward everything meant for your destiny. You may not realize it yet, but right now, this very moment, God is whispering something into your spirit that sounds strange to the natural ear, but thunderous to the spiritual mind. God is saying, put salt in your shoes. And when God gives a command that unusual, that unexpected, that symbolic, it means He is preparing you for a journey that cannot be taken with ordinary steps, ordinary thinking, or ordinary faith. You cannot walk into the destiny God has prepared for you with the same shoes you wore in your season of struggle. You cannot walk into a higher calling with the shoes that have carried the dust of your doubt, the mud of your fear, and the weight of your past. God is telling you to place something powerful inside your shoes, something sacred, something symbolic, salt, because the next steps you take require preservation, power, endurance, and divine strengthening from the inside out. When God says put salt in your shoes, He's not telling you to do something mystical or superstitious. He's telling you to fortify your walk, strengthen your spirit, harden your resolve, make your faith unshakable. Salt is the symbol of endurance. And God is saying, you will not faint on this next path. You will not tire. You will not give up halfway. You will walk with a firmness. No attack can weaken. No storm can destroy. No fear can dissolve. Salt keeps what is valuable from decaying. And God is using this image to show you that the purpose He placed inside you will not rot away. The dreams He planted in your heart will not wither, and the strength you need to reach your promise will not fade. God is commanding you to prepare yourself inwardly for the outward journey ahead. There are people who wonder why their progress feels slow, why their footsteps feel heavy, why their spirit feels worn out before they even begin. It is because they are walking with empty shoes. They are stepping into battles with no spiritual reinforcement. They are taking risks with no preparation. They are trying to climb mountains with shoes that were never strengthened for the terrain. But God is looking at you and saying, I want your steps to be seasoned with faith, your path to be preserved with purpose, your courage to be fortified with strength. Put salt in your shoes so that every step you take echoes with the authority I have given you. You see, there is a difference between walking and walking with God-backed endurance. When God commands you to put salt in your shoes, He is recruiting you into a realm where your steps are no longer ordinary movements, they become declarations. Every footstep becomes a statement of faith. I will not quit. I will not bend. I will not let fear claim territory meant for my destiny. God is preparing you to walk through valleys without trembling and climb spiritual peaks without losing your strength. When God seasons your steps, No terrain is too difficult. No journey is too long. No burden is too heavy. Salt in your shoes means your progress will not be stolen. It means your steps will not slip. It means you will not be derailed by the distractions that took others off course. God is saying, I am preserving your momentum. I am protecting your forward motion. I am making sure that the enemy cannot contaminate or corrupt the path I am sending you on. Too many times, people begin with passion but end with exhaustion. They start with excitement but finish with discouragement. They have dreams but no endurance to reach them. And so God gives you an instruction that seems unusual but carries divine wisdom. Add salt to your steps so that your journey will last. There are people who will say, but God, why salt? Why something so simple? Why something so small? Because God often hides great power in simple things. God uses symbolic actions to transform spiritual realities. When God says, put salt in your shoes, He is teaching you that the smallest acts of obedience carry the greatest breakthroughs. Some people miss their miracles because they are waiting for dramatic signs, but God's greatest instructions are often quiet, unexpected whispers that shift the entire direction of your life. God is telling you that obedience, even to the smallest command, will unlock the largest blessings. Salt in your shoes also means clarity. It means God is purifying your walk so you do not wander into places that do not belong to you. It means He is removing confusion from your path so you stop walking in circles, repeating the same cycle, finishing the same lessons, encountering the same dead ends. God is saying, I want your steps to be directed, intentional, purposeful. I want you to move with confidence, not hesitation. I want you to walk with assurance, not uncertainty. When God seasons your steps, you stop wasting your energy on things that are beneath your calling. You stop chasing what distracts you. You stop walking into rooms where His presence is not sending you. Salt in your shoes means God is empowering you to stand when others fall. It means when pressure increases, you will hold your ground. When storms rise, you will not be moved. When people try to weaken your spirit, your footing remains firm. Salt toughens the surface of whatever it touches, and God is toughening your spirit. God is strengthening your inner posture. God is making you resistant to the spiritual erosion that brings others down. Have you ever noticed how quickly discouragement tries to melt your confidence? How rapidly fear tries to dissolve your peace? How easily pressure attempts to drain your courage? That is because you were walking without salt. You were walking without spiritual reinforcement. But now, God is saying, I am preserving you. I am guarding you. I am activating something powerful within you that will not allow your spirit to dissolve. Salt keeps what is valuable intact. And God is declaring that you are too valuable to go through another season where your strength melts under pressure. Salt in your shoes also means God is making you spiritually unbothered. When God places divine preservation in your steps, you stop reacting to everything. You stop absorbing negativity. You stop caring what people say. You stop letting their words or opinions disturb your inner balance. God is sealing your peace. God is protecting your emotional stability. God is making sure that nothing external can contaminate your internal walk. When you walk with salt in your shoes, you walk differently. You walk with dignity. You walk with assurance. You walk with authority. You walk knowing your path has been purified, your steps have been strengthened, and your future has been preserved by God Himself. You are not shaken. You are not derailed. you are not disturbed. You are not anxious. You know that every move you make is covered by God's plan. But salt also does something else. It creates thirst. When God says, put salt in your shoes, He is awakening a deeper thirst for Him. He is stirring a hunger for His guidance, His presence, His wisdom, His direction. You walk differently when you are thirsty for God. You walk with more focus, more intention, more clarity, more surrender. Your steps become a pursuit, not a routine. Your walk become a journey, not a chore. God is saying, I am awakening your spirit so that you do not walk in dryness, but in desire for me. Some people try to walk through life with no spiritual thirst. They try to rely on their own strength, their own logic, their own understanding. But when the soul is not thirsty for God, the steps become weak. The walk becomes slow. The journey becomes draining. So God says, let me season your steps. Let me stir your hunger. Let me give you a walk, a divine longing that keeps you connected to me. The salt in your shoes represents a soul that refuses to walk without God's guidance. Salt also represents covenant, meaning God is binding Himself to your journey. He is promising to walk with you, guide you, protect you, and preserve you. He is saying, where you walk, I will be. Where you step, I will lead. Where you move, I will strengthen. God is not sending you alone. He is stepping into the path with you. When God says, put salt in your shoes, He is preparing you for opposition too. Because whenever God gives you an instruction, you can be certain that pressure will arise to test your obedience. There will be voices telling you the instruction is silly. There will be distractions telling you the journey is too long. There will be obstacles telling you the mountain is too high. There will be people who do not understand your steps because they cannot see what God placed in your shoes. But you must walk anyway. You must step anyway. You must keep moving anyway. Salt in your shoes means you do not stop when the path becomes uncomfortable. You do not stop when the ground becomes uneven. You do not stop when people criticize your pace. You do not stop when the journey takes longer than expected. God is saying, I am not giving you comfort. I am giving you endurance. And endurance is what separates those who dream from those who arrive. Many people have a dream level faith, but not walking level faith. They can imagine the destination, but they cannot handle the steps required to reach it. God is giving you endurance so you do not collapse under responsibility. God is strengthening you so you do not crumble under pressure. God is toughening your spirit so you can carry what He is about to release in your life. Salt in your shoes is also a symbol of identity. God is telling you, do not walk like them. Do not move like them. Do not follow the footsteps of those who compromise, quit, or dilute their purpose. God is giving you a different walk because He has set you apart for a different outcome. Your steps are not common. Your calling is not common. Your journey is not common. So God gives you an uncommon instruction to produce an uncommon result. Salt in your shoes means you are walking with a purity of purpose. Your motives are clean. Your direction is intentional. Your spirit is aligned. You are not wandering. You are not drifting. You are not lost. You are centered, focused, and anchored in God's will. Salt means your walk will influence others. When God fortifies your step, you leave a spiritual imprint everywhere you go. You leave a peace in the places you step into. You leave clarity in the environment you touch. You leave wisdom in the conversations you enter. You leave strength in the hearts you encounter. God is making your walk a testimony. People will say, why do you walk like that? Why are you unshaken in storms? Why are you calm under pressure? Why does nothing break you? And you will say, because God seasoned my steps. God fortified my journey. God strengthened my walk. And this is where the speech builds the prophetic truth. God wants you to grasp. You are entering a season where your footsteps will open doors. Your footsteps will shift atmospheres. Your footsteps will break generational patterns. Your footsteps will trample fear. Your footsteps will reclaim spiritual territory. Your footsteps will create pathways where there were none. Salt in your shoes means God is giving weight to your walk. Your presence will carry authority. Your voice will carry influence. Your decisions will carry impact. When you step into a room, you will not step in lightly. You will step in with presence, purpose, and power because your walk has been seasoned by God. Salt in your shoes means the small steps matter. The daily steps matter. The unseen steps matter. The private steps matter. Because God is watching not just the distance you cover, but the faithfulness in each step you take. Salt in your shoes means God is preparing you for a long journey, not a short sprint. He is building stamina in your spirit. He is building longevity in your faith. He is building discipline in your heart. He is preparing you for blessings that require consistency, responsibility, and endurance. The promise He has for you is not small. The future He has planned for you is not fragile. It is weighty, eternal, and powerful, and it requires a walk that can carry it. Salt in your shoes means you will not be defeated by time. You will not be discouraged by delay. You will not be weakened by waiting. God will preserve your hope. He will protect your vision. He will keep your expectation alive. While others tire during the wait, your spirit will stay strong. Salt in your shoes means God is removing spiritual parasites, people who drain your energy, distract your purpose, or disturb your peace. You will walk away from what weakens you. You will step out of what confuses you. You will move past what has held you back for years. Salt in your shoes means wherever you walk, you bring the presence of God with you. You walk with divine protection. You walk with divine clarity. You walk with divine insight. You walk with divine courage. You walk with divine strength. Your steps are no longer yours. They are guided, guarded, and empowered by God. Salt in your shoes means your past cannot contaminate your future because God has purified your path. You are not walking into the next season with a residue of the old. God has cleansed your direction. He has washed your steps. He has prepared your path. Salt in your shoes means you are ready even if you don't feel ready. When God fortifies your steps, He removes the fear of inadequacy. You no longer walk timidly. You no longer walk questioning your worth. You no longer walk hesitating. God is saying, walk boldly, walk confidently, walk with authority. I have seasoned your steps. Salt in your shoes means God is giving you stubborn faith, the kind of a faith that does not back down, the kind of a faith that does not collapse, the kind of a faith that does not negotiate with fear, the kind of a faith that looks at mountains and says, move. Salt in your shoes means you are stepping into alignment with God's will. And when your steps align with God's plan, nothing, absolutely nothing can prevent you from reaching what He has ordained for you. Salt in your shoes means you are stepping forward with a fortified spirit, a purified heart, and an unbreakable will. You are walking into a future constructed by God's own hands. And when God tells you to put salt in your shoes, it is not merely to strengthen where you walk, it is to transform who you become while walking. Because every step with God is not just motion, it is spiritual molding. It is character refinement. It is internal elevation. God is not only guiding your path, He is enlarging your spirit. Every step taken with salt in your shoes becomes a tool of divine transformation, shaping you into someone who can carry the weight of the destiny that awaits. God is preparing your inner vessel before He releases your outer victories. Salt in your shoes means God is sharpening your discernment. This is the season where you will no longer walk blindly into traps that once caught you. God is opening your eyes to the subtle shifts of the Spirit, the quiet signals, the silent deceptions, the hidden motives. He is teaching you to feel the ground beneath your feet before you commit to the next step. He's teaching you to sense the truth behind someone's smile, the intention behind an opportunity, the spiritual climate behind an environment. God is ensuring you no longer lose your way through naivety. Your footsteps are becoming wise, cautious, intentional, and spiritually alert. And as God pours this discernment into your steps, He's also giving you the courage to walk away from places that no longer carry His presence. Salt in your shoes gives you the boldness to leave behind what drains your spirit, the strength to disconnect from what weakens you, and the clarity to step out of environments that choke your purpose. You will not remain where God's presence is no longer leading you. You will not force yourself into rooms He is calling you out of. Your spirit will feel the discomfort, the heaviness, the lack of peace, because the salt in your shoes will not allow you to settle where your destiny cannot grow. Salt in your shoes means God is increasing the authority over your footsteps. There is a certain weight that comes upon a person who walks closely with God, an unseen authority, a spiritual presence that cannot be fabricated or faked. When you walk with the weight of God's presence, you do not have to announce yourself. Your spirit announces you. Doors shift when you arrive. Atmospheres transform when you enter. People listen when you speak because there is divine substance behind your words. This is not human confidence. This is God-given authority. And this authority is not loud. It is undeniable. Salt in your shoes means your presence carries influence even when your mouth is silent. It means your character speaks louder than the noise around you. It means your discipline becomes a testimony. It means even your quiet steps are guided by God so deeply that people sense the purity of your walk. When God seasons your steps, you no longer strive to be seen. Your walk exposes the light within you. Salt in your shoes means God is cleansing the path behind you, ensuring that nothing unclean, poisonous, or spiritually toxic follows you into your next chapter. Salt purifies. Salt disinfects. Salt removes decay. God is saying, I am cleansing the trail of your past. The footsteps behind you will no longer carry regret, guilt, shame, or wounds. I am purifying your walk so that the shadows of yesterday do not contaminate the promise of tomorrow. This is the season where God is cutting off the residue of old battles. You are not walking into your next season with the emotional dirt stuck to your soles. God is washing your footsteps clean. Salt in your shoes means God is awakening the warrior inside you, because you cannot reach divine purpose with a fragile spirit. God strengthens your steps because He knows the terrain will not always be smooth. There will be hills that demand resilience, valleys that require faith, storms that test your confidence, paths that seem impossible. But God is saying, I am toughening your walk. I am awakening your spiritual fight. I am empowering you to tread on the things that once overcame you. Where you once feared, you will now step boldly. Where you once hesitated, you will now advance with a conviction. Where you once doubted, you will now walk with unshakable assurance. Salt in your shoes means God is teaching you that your walk itself is warfare. Every step you take in faith destroys chains that try to bind you. Every step you take in obedience breaks cycles that try to repeat. Every step you take in surrender disrupts the plans that darkness try to set against you. Your walk becomes a weapon. Your steps become an act of spiritual defiance. You are not just moving, you are conquering. Salt in your shoes means God is preparing you to carry blessings that require maturity. Because divine blessings do not arrive in fragile hands or unstable steps. God strengthens your walk so you can handle the promotion, manage the responsibility, and sustain the new level. Many desire the blessing but do not have the endurance to sustain its weight. But God is saying, I am preparing your steps so that when I elevate you, you do not collapse under the pressure of greatness. Salt in your shoes means God is giving you patience for the journey, not passivity, but purposeful patience. Patience rooted in knowing that God's timing is flawless. When God seasons your steps, impatience loses its power. You no longer rush out of anxiety, you move deliberately out of trust. You no longer chase what is not yours, you walk toward what God appointed. You no longer push doors open, you allow God to unlock them at the right moment. Salt in your shoes teaches you to cherish the process, not just the promise. Salt in your shoes means your walk is now anchored not by emotion, not by impulse, not by fear, but by God Himself. You walk with a grounded spirit, steady, centered, balanced, unwavering. And when people around you panic, your steps remain aligned. When others lose direction, you remain rooted. When chaos swirls around you, you continue walking with purpose because God has fortified your steps with a peace that cannot be stolen. Salt in your shoes also means God is sharpening your intuition, the spiritual instinct that whispers to your soul, even when logic cannot explain it. You begin to sense when God is saying go, even when circumstances look unclear. You begin to feel when God is saying wait, even when opportunities seem promising. You begin to recognize when God is saying stop, even when people push you forward. This intuition is not earthly, it is divinely infused into your steps by God Himself. Salt in your shoes means every step you take is protected. You are shielded from unseen dangers, hidden traps, silent attacks, and spiritual ambushes. God goes before you, behind you, above you, and within you. No step is taken alone. No movement is unguarded. No path is unprotected. When you walk with the salt in your shoes, you walk under divine surveillance. Salt in your shoes means your footsteps will leave a legacy. You are not just walking for yourself. You are blazing a trail for generations connected to you. Every step you take in faith becomes an inheritance for those who come after you. Every battle you overcome becomes a victory they won't have to fight. Every mountain you climb becomes a path they can follow. God is making your walk generationally impactful. Salt in your shoes means your journey becomes a message. People will learn by watching your endurance. They will be strengthened by observing your walk. They will be inspired by the passion in your steps, the conviction in your stride, the faith that sustains your movement. Your life becomes a sermon without words because God seasoned your steps. Salt in your shoes means you are stepping into a new identity, not the person shaped by past struggles, but the person shaped by God's present strength. Not the person defined by wounds, but the person defined by divine purpose. Not the person held down by fear, but the person lifted by faith. God is transforming your walk because He is transforming your nature. Salt in your shoes means you are stepping out of a spiritual dryness. Seasons where you felt empty, numb, disconnected, drained, they are ending. God is refreshing your spirit. He is restoring your strength. He is reigniting your inner fire. You will no longer walk with a tired soul. You will walk with a revived spirit. Salt in your shoes means God is renewing your direction. He is correcting the course you lost, restoring the steps you wasted, and realigning your path to His plan. Even if you wandered, God is bringing you back into alignment one step at a time. You will no longer feel lost because your steps are now guided by God's wisdom. Salt in your shoes means God is empowering you to outgrow old versions of yourself. The insecure, you cannot walk in these shoes anymore. The fearful, you cannot fit into this journey anymore. The doubtful, you cannot step into this season anymore. God is evolving you, enlarging you, and elevating you internally so that externally you can walk into new territory with authority. Salt in your shoes means your footsteps will silence the voices of doubt. There are people waiting to see you fail, rooting for you to fall, expecting you to collapse. But God is saying, I will strengthen your steps so powerfully that your walk will silence every voice that spoke against you. Salt in your shoes means God is preparing you for divine surprises, unexpected breakthroughs, quiet miracles, sudden opportunities, hidden blessings. You will step into rooms you never imagined, conversations you never planned, blessings you did not see coming because your walk has been aligned with God's timing. Salt in your shoes means you are unstoppable, not because of your own strength, but because the one guiding your steps never fails. And when God empowers your walk, no force on earth can destroy what He established within you. And when God says, put salt in your shoes, He is not only preparing you for the steps in front of you, He is preparing you for the moments where standing still requires just as much faith as moving forward. Because there will be seasons where God tells you to advance and seasons where God tells you to wait. There will be moments where God pushes you into new territory and moments where God anchors your feet so firmly that nothing can pull you away from the ground that He planted you on. Salt in your shoes means you are prepared for both the obedience to move and the strength to remain. There are places in your journey where God will command you to stand even when everything around you urges you to run. Stand in the storm, stand in the pressure, stand in the uncertainty, stand when logic cannot explain the situation, stand when circumstances appear against you. And the reason God strengthens your shoes with the salt is so that you will not be moved by the shifting winds of life. Salt-gripped footsteps do not slide under pressure. They cling to purpose with a divine resilience. When God seasons your steps, you do not lose a spiritual footing, even when the ground beneath you trembles. Salt in your shoes means God is preparing you for divine elevation, the kind of elevation that requires more stability in character than visibility in appearance. Before God lifts you, He strengthens you. Before He expands your territory, He solidifies your foundation. Before He increases your influence, He purifies your motives. Salt is the unseen preparation for the steps that will one day be seen by many. God is working on you inwardly so that when He reveals you outwardly, you will not fall under the weight of the assignment. And the reason God insists on salt is because salt represents purity of intention, a spiritual antiseptic that cleanses your walk from ego, selfish ambition, or the desire for human approval. God is saying, I want your step to be clean, not corrupted. I want your motives to be pure, not polluted. I want your journey to be fueled by obedience, not validation. Salt prevents decay, and God is preventing your purpose from spoiling under the influence of pride or distraction. He is cleansing your steps so that everything you do carries the fragrance of sincerity and the essence of truth. Salt in your shoes means your journey will demand courage, a courage that is not loud, not reckless, not impulsive, but deeply anchored in trust. God does not strengthen your steps so that you can run in arrogance. He strengthens them so that you can walk in obedience. He gives you courage so that you will move even when fear whispers lies. He gives you courage so that you will enter the unknown without collapsing. He gives you courage so that when the path darkens, your faith still shines. Courage seasoned by God is not dependent on circumstances, it is dependent on conviction. And conviction is what salt produces. Salt intensifies flavor, and God is intensifying your conviction. He is sharpening your clarity about who you are, what you are called to, and where you are going. No more walking as someone unsure, someone hesitant, someone divided within. God is merging your inner world into alignment so that your steps are unified. No more double-mindedness, no more spiritual fragmentation. Salt binds your steps to the direction God has assigned. Salt in your shoes also means God is lengthening your endurance, not just for the distance of the journey, but for the battles along the way. There will be moments where the road becomes steep, where the path becomes narrow, where the journey demands more strength than you anticipated. But God is giving you endurance that does not collapse at the sight of opposition. Your steps will not falter in adversity. Your spirit will not tire in hardship. Your resolve will not diminish under weight. God is empowering you to outlast everything designed to exhaust you. And it is this endurance that separates those who watch destiny from those who walk into it. Many start strong but quit quickly. Many dream big but break early. Many carry vision but lack the endurance to complete it. But salt in your shoes ensures you do not quit in the middle. You do not break under pressure. You do not stop when the path becomes uncomfortable. You endure because God infused your steps with divine strength. Salt in your shoes means God is teaching you the value of spiritual sensitivity, the ability to detect subtle changes in the atmosphere around you. You will feel when a door is not of God, even if it looks golden. You will sense when a person's intentions are unstable, even if their words sound sweet. You will perceive when God is redirecting your path, even if the signs are faint. This is not paranoia, it is a spiritual sensitivity, a gift that comes from walking closely with God. Salt awakens your feet and God awakens your spirit. Salt in your shoes means your direction is sanctified, meaning God is not allowing you to wander into everything that looks attractive. Attraction is not alignment. Opportunities are not always divine. Open doors are not always God's doors. And God is saying, I will guard your steps from paths that lead to spiritual loss. I will protect you from detours disguised as blessings. I will close the doors that your eyes admire, but your destiny cannot survive. Salt in your shoes ensures you walk where God leads, not where your emotions wander. Salt in your shoes means God is preparing you for environment your older self could not handle. The version of you that existed last season could not survive the elevation God is preparing. God is strengthening your mindset, purifying your heart, and deepening your discipline, because the next level requires a wiser, stronger, more surrendered you. You are being refined because your promise is refined. You are being strengthened because your assignment is heavy. You are being seasoned because your future carries weight. Salt in your shoes means God is developing the capacity of your spirit, enlarging your internal space to handle spiritual responsibilities, emotional weight, and divine revelations. You will begin to carry peace in situations that once overwhelmed you. You will carry clarity in conversations that once confused you. You will carry calmness in storms that once frightened you. Your spirit is expanding, growing, maturing, because God is preparing you to walk in authority.